да положи максимално подходящия тон. Това ангажира моето внимание и моята мисъл. Разбира се, мисля си за ред други неща. За историята, за... Ако щете, какво е било времето, епохата, когато са създадени тия стенописи, този храм, какви хора са посещавали също.
People lived behind these walls. Their lives were regulated by the Orthodox Church calendar. The highlight of the year was Easter. Christo demonstrates the customs of 500 years ago.
Сватя Христос възкресе! Нося ви яйца от нашето семейство за здраве и за дълъг живот.
Христос воистина възкресе! Да сте живи и здрави!
Селото се ползвало със специален статут още при Сюлейман I, великолепния, който управлява Османската империя от 1522 година до 1560 година. Подарява това село на своя зет Рустем Паша и заради този дар селото се ползва с специални привилегии.
The first advantage to living here was tax exemption in return for the defense of the empire's frontier. All the houses were made of stone, a visible sign of wealth. Elsewhere, this was uncommon. The thick walls also served as fortification against invading tribes. Christo and his colleagues have collected objects here that dominated daily life back then.
Като се влезе в тази къща, ние виждаме известна смесица между народния бита на българите от по-ранен период, примерно 15-16 век, с вещи и предмети, които някакси на пръв поглед не се връзват с останалите. Тези предмети са донесени при пътуванията от стопаните на тази къща до Централна Европа.
Living inside a tax haven, the former peasants of this town accumulated substantial wealth. Many became successful merchants, yet the church bells remained silent for 500 years. Then, 30 miles to the south, the tide turned. Here in the Shipka Pass in the Balkan Mountains, Russia defeated the Ottoman troops in a decisive battle in 1878. But the liberation of their fellow Slavs and Orthodox Christians was not the real reason for Russia's Balkan campaign. Russia also had its own interests in the region, an influence that continued into the 20th century when Bulgaria became a communist state and a member of the Warsaw Pact. Nevertheless, the Shipka Pass became a national monument of liberation, even in post-communist Bulgaria. In the past, the mountains at Shipka Pass were a popular hideout for guerrilla warriors. Today, they're a venue for artists. Stoyan Pavlov only goes to town to buy paint. Only in this countryside, he says, can he find what he craves: total silence. The beautiful scenery is an inexhaustible source of inspiration for him.
Реката до теб ти шуми, хората са добри тук, животни навсекъде, на където се обърнеш. Помни се рисува тук, като дойде. На спокойствие, няма кой да те притеснява, няма трамвай, няма нищо. Има си кръчма тук.
The wine that Stoyan drinks at the pub is made on the other side of the mountains. The Balkan Mountains are a primary watershed, making South Bulgaria a rich and fertile land. Bulgarian wine is successfully pushing its way into the Western markets. The most famous wine comes from the town of Melnik. Melnik has the other distinction of being the smallest town of Bulgaria. It's been restored in recent years to postcard perfection. In the Middle Ages, the town was known far beyond the national borderlines, with commercial contacts as far away as Germany, Austria, and Italy. The best-selling export was then, as it is now, red wine. But the end of Turkish domination in the late 1800s saw a decline in Melnik's status. The former center of the empire became a border town far away from new trade routes. An earthquake and plague did the rest. Out of 1,300 wine-growing families, only 93 remained. One of them was the family of Nasko Manolev. Wine has been the pride and joy of the family for generations. Wine tastings are a frequent event in their cellars, built into the rock high above the town.
Also Tierfeld ist 100%ig ausschön. Wie ich dein Temperament jetzt da kommt unser Essen und Wein. Wunderbar. Ja, gerne. Danke.
The tastings are a ritual, as hospitality is a long-standing tradition, but they also make good business sense.
Мелник от край време, откъде съществува, винаги се е правило вино в него. Това е една от основните причини. Той е известен с културната си ценност, която и природа, защото мелнишкото вино на нито друго едно место по целия свят не се среща тая лоза, от която то се прави. Това е уникален сорт грозде, който вирее само в нашия регион и с това може Мелник и България да се гордее, че го имаме този сорт грозде. Обичаме да гледаме лозя, обичаме да пиеме вино и обичаме с това да се занимаваме.
The ancient Thracians were excellent wine growers. Back then, wine was stored in clay jugs. Pottery making continues to flourish in Bulgaria, an art passed down through the generations. But only after the fall of communism did Master Georgios' childhood dream come true, his own workshop. Now, his most fervent wish is to have lots of visitors.
Света да разбере, че България е страна с проблеми, но хората вървят напред и искат да бъдат опознати, искат да бъдат разбрани. В България има много красиви неща, които е хубаво да бъдат видяни от света.
Georgios' workshop is situated in the nearby town of Plovdiv. At the moment, it's still virtually unknown to tourists, but it's becoming more and more popular every day. Part of the new attraction is the hospitality of the locals. It's a Bulgarian tradition, but here in Plovdiv, it borders on civic duty. Hospitality is something Gergana, a local waitress, knows very well.
За мен и за цялото ми семейство е много важно да се събираме по празниците, традиции, да се приготвят хубави гозби и добра трапеза. Българина се слави с това, че обича хубавите гозби и доброто пиене.
She doesn't have far to go. She works in a popular restaurant in the city center, an establishment that once catered to the Pope on his visit to Bulgaria. It's a family enterprise. The restaurant's chef, Slavo, is Gergana's father. The specialty of the house is stewed meat or poultry in clay jars. The jars are naturally from Georgios' pottery shop.
Това е специалитет на ресторанта в Рангите.
Чувал съм, че е много вкусен.
The Bulgarian cuisine comprises more than 5,000 recipes from 5 millennia. Particularly popular are the dishes that have their roots in the Orthodox monasteries. Bulgarian monks are considered gourmets, and they always built their monasteries in the most beautiful surroundings. A fine example is Bachkovo, about an hour's drive from Plovdiv. Although it's the second largest monastery in Bulgaria, only 7 monks still live here. Resistance against foreign domination began to stir first in monasteries like this one. For many years, monks kept up the struggle for the preservation of the Bulgarian language and culture. No doubt Brother Simeon and Brother Atanas have plenty of stories to tell, but the bylaws of the monastery swear them to secrecy towards any secular visitors. The call for the evening service is a deliberate reminder of the dark times when the bells fell silent. The monastery's greatest achievement by far is the Slav alphabet created in 855 AD. Today it serves as a script for 200 million people worldwide. The authors were 2 Bulgarian monks, Kirill and Methody. They are national heroes. They even have their own Saints' Day, a folk festival for young and old. In communist times, attendance was a duty. As the crowds in the capital city of Sofia prove, people are more than happy to come voluntarily.